And we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the final episode of Spill the Kopi with CuddlyBossLady, which is me, and for 2020. And we have two very, very, very special guests today, John and Paula Mix, co-founders, totally awesome people as well today. Before we get into the chat, I want to mention that we have a few giveaways today. The first one is if you share a photo of with you and your favorite Finis equipment, and you tag Finis Swim and CuddlyBossLady on Instagram, or CBL Sports and Finis Swim if you're on Facebook, there's a chance to win some cool prizes as well. So just to get that out of the way first. So do post a picture. Even if you're not in the pool, we have no pools, but post a picture. Can be anywhere. So, okay, let's welcome John and Paula to our little show. And yes, happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
I hope you had a good feast. And with So, what I usually like to do is I would always ask my guests the journey they went through to get to where they are today. And obviously, you know, we're talking Finis family today. And I would love to know, you know, how Finis came about. I mean, I am curious about the name, you know, why Finis, and basically how the whole journey for yourself, how did it come to this point? John, I guess.
Yeah. Funny enough, when the whole idea for the company, we didn't realize at first that it was going to be a company that made swim products for the coaches and for the athletes. The first product was I had the opportunity to use a monofin when I was playing some water polo in Europe, and I found the monofin really fascinating and fun. And in the back of my mind, I thought, I wonder if I bring this home to California, would it be something people would use in the ocean, even to catch a wave before it becomes a wave? I mean, there was something really unique about the monofin. So it was, you know, in the back of my mind, I thought there could be something here. My father taught me how to study the patents. And, but the more I continued to explore, you know, the use of this product out in the oceans, it just wasn't really resonating. And when my friend and teammate, Pablo Morales, in Barcelona, he won some more gold medals as a 100-meter butterfly swimmer. And after the Olympics, he came back and we got together, and I asked him if he had trained with the monofin himself, and he said he hadn't. And that was it. He said, this is really fun to use it. And you know, fun was the first big light bulb. And then he said, and it's a great benefit. This is something that we should be using. And so we said, well, why don't we start a company? And in starting the company, it was really a hobby for about 3 years until we'd done enough that we decided to quit our day jobs. So I think February of '93, we formed the company. And in January of '97, I left my day job and he left his a year later. But you asked, how did we get that name, Finis?
Yes.
And so the way we got the name Finis, the way you register names in the United States is you put 5 down on a form, a registration form, and we send these 5 names in. So we started with a list of, you know, many names. We narrowed it down to just 5, and Finis was one of those names. And when they sent the paper back, all the other 4 couldn't be used. And they had circled the name Finis, and that was it. But the name Finis is Pablo and I went to a private Jesuit all boys high school. And they taught some Latin, and the word finis in Latin is "this is it, the end." And because the first product was going to be a fin, it just sounded kind of fun. Yeah, so that was really the foundation of us getting started.
Oh, wow. So they decided it was meant to be, basically, you know, the Latin plus the fin that started you off, really.
Yeah.
It must have been, I mean, obviously starting at something new and, you know, having your day jobs as well, and also trying to start, get something off the ground. And obviously you had the whole product development cycle to go through. I mean, what would have been the challenges that stood out to you? I mean, the obviously they would have been, you know, kind of a roller coaster ride. You know, you'd have the good days and the harder days to get through. I mean, what are the challenges that stood out to you in this journey to win you guys?
Well, I think the first thing was to just try and even get people to use the monofin, because it wasn't very popular. People didn't even know what it was. So the biggest challenge was to convince people that it was a useful tool. And actually, it wasn't even that it was going to become a tool for swimming. It was going to become, we were trying to help world fin swimming become an Olympic sport. That was the original idea. And then when that seemed to not progress as fast as we had hoped, John and Pablo saw the validity of it for swimming.
So Pablo, because he had already competed in swimming at the highest level, and when I shared with him that this big monofin really came from this other sport called fin swimming, Pablo was pretty fascinated by that. He thought, wow, I could put this fin on and I can go, 50 meters in 14 and a half seconds. How fun is this? So I think we really did gravitate towards, could this thing called fin swimming be something that we could start in the United States? So I think we spent a good year or two where we thought really maybe that was going to be the growth of the monofin. But each time you would recruit people to try this fin swimming sport, you would see that there was also benefits for swimming. And the benefits for swimming were far, that was where the interest continued to be. And so we gravitated at that point and says, well, look, if it can benefit swimming, let's concentrate there. Maybe the racing will happen at a later time.
And with the fin swimming competition, they would wear the snorkel, the front mount snorkel. So that's really where the idea originated. But it was a very, archaic, basic, raw material product that they were using. So,
I mean, well, I can't imagine doing the fin swimming underwater for that period of time. But I can see, I mean, especially, Pablo was a flyer, right? So the whole idea of the motion that you're getting and it'll be, I must try it one day. I haven't got one. I've got many other things, fins, that I've been playing with. Coming to like the mermaid fins, were what I like to say is the sister kind of from the monofin. And I understand that was a project that Paula worked on in the initial stages. So Paula, could you tell us a little bit about that?
It started with the wave fin, which was the smallest, fin that we made for children. And just always wanted, Little Mermaid was popular. So I just said, can't we just stamp and cut a fin to make it look like a mermaid tail? And it took years to convince him to finally do it. I said, just bring one home. And we cut it with scissors and we said, well, maybe we have something. And then it took a while to, because it wasn't a competitive swim tool. It was basically in their eyes a toy. And, how could we carry this fin that is not in line with our products? So it was a challenge to convince him to do it, but I think he's happy that we did now.
Well, I'm happy that you did, because it's so much fun to use. The Luna, I have the Luna mermaid fin, and actually sometimes we use it as part of training with some of the fly kids, because although it is a struggle, because obviously I have the adult size one, so but it's fun. It's great fun.
I think
Thank you.
It opened our eyes to we when we think about products in the market, you think that this world of competitive swimming is really kids between the age of, call it 8 to 18 is probably the biggest group of kids in competitive swimming. And yet there's, the number of children that swim younger than that age, right? Between the age of 5 and 10. I mean, they're just having fun. They're just playing in the water. And that's what Paula wanted me to see, was like, even though competitive swimming feels this big, we should make the mermaid fin, because what child or inner child in an adult doesn't think about at some time just being a mermaid or a merman? And so the mermaid fins is it's a really significant portion of what we do. It's phenomenal how many people buy mermaid fins for pure enjoyment. So,
I mean, that's what it should be about, right? You have to enjoy what, you're in the water. Especially with kids, you want to get them being comfortable in the water, and and that's how they begin their swimming side of things. They're so comfortable, they love the water so much, and then they would want to make the natural progression into that. And there's a huge portion of, shall we say, retired swimmers, as well as adults who come to swimming much later, or at least water much later. And that's another area in which they love, the mermaid fin, or being a part of the whole scene, right, and everything.
Right. I think our first concern too is for the children to have both their feet, strapped into something that was, could be possibly, very dangerous. So that was
safety.
Yeah, safety.
Safety is always.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously with each product you have a product development cycle and everything. What are the phases that you would normally go through when the idea first happens, and then what's the product? I know that sounds very formal. The product development cycle that you go through. I mean, it's probably years that, like you said, the monofin was quite a long period of time before you found what you wanted, and the same for the mermaid fin or any of the other finished products. So, what's the process normally?
Yeah, today we actually have this thing called it's a product filter, because there's so many ideas that are coming in from coaches, from swimmers, from our own staff members, and we think, okay, well, the ideas are almost limitless. There's so many ideas that come in. So the product development, the group that participates in that product development discussions, I'm one of 4 people that would have this conversation. It's about once a month. We say, hey, let's go through this filter real quick, and let's talk about the things that have come in. So you ask yourself a series of questions, and if the score is above a certain number, then we say, okay, it's passed the filter test. And if it's below a certain number, you say it doesn't. And it's really good to try to get to the no as quickly as possible. So in that cycle of questions is, who would the target user be? Is it just little children? Is it competitive? Is it people who swim for their whole life? Questions of, what would the associated costs be to make such a product? And if it's molds or it's engineering, what would when you do make the product, what do you believe the perceived retail price of that product would be? So you can perform an ROI and determine, can we spend this money to make it? How many do we think would be sold? And I think we've gotten really good at it because we've been doing it for a long time. So I would say we really like doing the hard stuff, because the hard stuff creates a barrier to entry. I think we really like problem solving. So I think many of the ideas have come to us where listening to a coach, listening to a swimmer, we hear it day in and day out, and they're talking about, how do we, teach better body balance in the water. And today, the use of the front snorkel would be, but how did that front snorkel really come to be? As Paula mentioned, we saw it in this sport called fin swimming. And Pablo immediately said, he used it with the monofin and this thing called fin swimming. But he immediately said, if we just use the snorkel and apply it to our regular swimming, I can, lower my head position. I could raise my hips. I could eliminate this. The breathing cycle is the hardest part of swimming freestyle, because most people, when they lift their head for that breath, they aren't rolling it underneath their, this pocket of air here, but rather they lift up. And when the head lifts up, the hips go down. And so I think that's a long way of talking about the product life cycle, but there's a lot of thoughts that go into it, and it's what we really love to do.
I mean, you're primarily always coming up with new equipment or evolving, the different equipment that you have. Is there a favorite new product that you were especially happy that it came about? Or is it like asking you, is this your favorite child? Which one's your favorite child? And
I think the snorkel, I think when Paul and I have the chance I really enjoy swimming in the open water. But if I'm not in the open water, then I'll find a pool. So what's the one product I think I want to take with me? It is the front snorkel, because I can really just get into my groove and get into my space. I think when we swim technically better, when you swim well, swimming can be almost easy, because we're well balanced in the water. Everything seems to be happening with good rhythm and good sequence. And so I think when you have the chance to swim with that snorkel, you can find your rhythm, you can find your body balance, you can find your position. And so that's the product I think I become most affectionate about to take with me. And I'll say that I also like swimming with music. So we have a couple products that allows you to listen to music through bone conduction. Because it's the water also seems to be a place where it is a form of escape. It's a place where you aren't like it's your own space. Yeah,
it's freedom.
Yeah, and so sometimes listening to music when you're doing that allows the mind also to be a little bit clear. I tend to, without the music, what might happen is I might be out for that swim and I'm really thinking about a lot. And when I put the music on, I stop the thinking and I find my rhythm.
You tune out and get to tune out for a while.
Yeah.
So Paula and swimming, we shall. I still live in hope.
A little bit, I do. And I do use the snorkel because I think the hardest part for me about swimming is the breathing. And so when I wear the snorkel, then I don't have to worry about it. And flip turns, I don't know how to do a flip turn either. So I just get to the wall, turn around, go back, and I don't have to.
I would say one of the days while I was at work, and I told her, "Oh, just take my stream into the pool." And I came home that night, and she was so excited. She said she was in the pool for a really long time because she lost,
I just wanted to be underwater, to listen to it. Was very, I don't know, euphoric to be under there and hear this music playing and just have the feel of the water. It was really neat.
Peaceful.
So, was.
We'll have you both swimming masters one day, maybe.
I get in. I do have a brother. I have three brothers, but and they all swim. But one of them is on a master's team.
Oh,
I'll join them for the occasional workout. I think it's some people like the master's workout because it's that organized schedule. They know that at that time they can go and have their swim. I think that my schedule needs to be a little bit more flexible. So I do a lot of swimming on my own, and we have proximity to several pools. And one of them that I'll go to, they'll be running a master's practice while I have my own lane too, because the coach knows me and says, "Oh, John, come on in and just take that one over there." So I'm really fortunate with access to pools.
Oh, sorry. It was actually a picture that was shown. It was of our Tech Talk, I think, right? It was one of our older Tech Talks. You just had it up there on your screen earlier.
Product development life cycles.
A couple minutes ago. And there was a funny story behind that. I don't know if it was Nort Thornton. Somebody mentioned to you about the body balance and having the Tech Talk with a metronome, sound. And that was when our kids were little. And I believe my brother put together the very first one. He made it out of a toy called the Duplo. I don't know if you're familiar with Legos.
Oh, the blocks. Yeah, the bigger blocks that we have Duplo.
So the Duplos are larger. They're for smaller children. And he actually created a Tech Talk with these Duplos, and we sold them.
Wow.
I think the interesting thing about those products would be the very first snorkel that we ever made. It's a bent sprinkler tube. So the options were, we thought people might really like to swim with a front snorkel. Yep, there's the one. But we said, how do we make something not in huge quantity, but we don't want to make a mold yet, but we need to prove, would the market be receptive to swimming with this? So we figured out how to bend a sprinkler tube and put a mouthpiece on it, and what we thought at the time was a fairly comfortable head bracket. And what Paula's mentioning is Nort Thornton was the coach of Matt Biondi. And something, that Matt did better than anybody else is the timing for when Matt's hand put pressure on the top of his stroke, Matt would roll his hip into position. And so he would slide his long, narrow body through the water, kind of like a sailboat would, as opposed to if you don't rotate early, you're pushing a barge through the water. So Nort said, how do we teach the timing of this hip snap? Because Matt was able to make that snap happen within the first couple moments of his stroke. And so Nort talked about, could we give physical feedback? Could we give audible feedback? I mean, how can we let people know if it doesn't happen here, it's too late. This is when we have core rotational strength. How do we teach it? And so with Paula's brother and the children's toys, we started snapping this thing together. And again, it was a great effort in early product development because we said, first, make it as inexpensively as possible and just prove the concept. So I think we proved the concept with the snorkel. We proved it with the Tech Talk and the Hydro Hip are two, hip rotation products that I think people don't. It's fundamental for good swimming is teaching that hip rotation. These are just two tools that we were able to think of because coaches were telling us, how do I teach it?
Right.
So are there any questions?
Sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say, are there any questions on any of our products that maybe the viewers have that John could give some input on?
At the moment, everyone's just listening, I think.
Okay.
Hey, guys. I do want to ask what we did. I mean, using the Duplo or the children's toy is an amazing, because I guess people want to see a visual representation. What is it going to be like? The tactile feel of, obviously it's not going to be exact, but, it's something that, like you were saying, the proof of concept that it's there, and that's what will get people interested in the product or the development of the product as well.
We've come a long way now because there's 3D printers, right?
Yeah,
but back in those days, we were, trying to find a way to prove the concept, make it out of something. And today, we're fortunate we have some 3D printers. And today, when we say, oh, could it do this? The team will design something, the team will make samples, and we're learning much faster.
We have one question from the audience so far. What item was the most surprising? The one that you did not expect to be popular? Well, that's a good question.
Well, I think my wife would say the mermaid fin, because it took me, she encouraged me for a year or 2 years. She says, look at all the fascination for the kids watching The Little Mermaid. And you've got this fin that essentially does the same thing, but it doesn't look like a mermaid fin. And she made this design. She took the marker and she drew it on one of our products, and she took the little knife out, she cut it this way. So I think absolutely a surprise, when the number of, we sell far more mermaid fins than we do mono fins. And we sell a lot of mono fins. So I think that's a great surprise. That's really fun.
From what I know as well, they have an International Mermaid Federation.
Yeah.
And they do courses and different things. And
they have pods too, they're local pods, and it's fun.
It's amazing. Yeah. And it's great to see. I think we have a comment from Joseph. It's not the products or the passion of the people behind it. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph.
Joseph is one of our local water polo coaches as well. So you played water polo, didn't you, John?
I did, yes. So that was my passion, in fact, until the age of 18 when I went to college to play for Santa Barbara. I swam to the best of my ability to feed that passion for being a better water polo player. So I just never really became that person where it was swimming that I loved. No, it was water polo that I loved. I swam to be a better water polo player. And it was after starting Finis and working with Paula that I found my love for swimming. I think, water polo is just great, but I recall speaking to one of the assistant coaches at Stanford, and I said to him, I was watching the Stanford women swim, and I said, I want to swim like that. It's so peaceful and graceful and beautiful. And I know from water polo, I swim with a short stacked stroke, and how do I do it better? And he said, you need to just get out. Like he said, I was too much in my head. I needed to, kind of set myself free and just swim more often and find the comfort. And today I just love it. I think swimming's my yoga. I mean, I love doing yoga with my wife. But when I swim, I get that same feeling as yoga. I feel mentally released. I feel physically like I've gotten the workout. It's just a great sense of clarity. So,
it's a great sport for all ages. You
know,
because it takes pressure off your joints and everything. So you can swim up to whatever age that you want to, really, or are able to. And that's one of the things. Yes, Paula is an amazing baker as well.
Thank you.
I see your desserts on Instagram, and I'm like, oh, it makes me want.
I know. I have to cut back on baking those.
No, you don't.
We used to send it to the office, but now that John's not going to the office, it stays at home, which is not a good thing.
No, we never turn down, good food and dessert, right? It's always a good thing. Now, one of the things, obviously we're talking Finis family as well. The idea of relationships, part of any, company growth is building those relationships and maintaining relationships that, are mutually beneficial, or just, you mentioned your brother, Paula's brother was like, every part, everyone had little involvement here and there. And I was wondering, what are the relationships that have helped you in your own journey, as well as, the growth of Finis? Anyone can. Yeah.
Yeah. Really, I think that through not being the swimmer, but Pablo being the swimmer, Pablo was able to give me introductions to this network of coaches and swimmers, and everyone was always so warm and accepting of the intention. As I mentioned, for 4 years, the business was just a hobby. So I think it was never felt like, we weren't pursuing a conversation with a coach to try to get to the answer. We are pursuing a conversation with the coach out of genuine interest.
To learn more about.
Yeah. So I mentioned Nort Thornton at Cal and Richard Quick was at Stanford, and they both, welcomed us onto the pool deck, with great frequency to come and watch a practice and ask questions. So I think the list is really, really quite enormous, but, so it's even just too big of a list to think of. But I think, it's kind of like what we have to do during this whole COVID crisis is we have to exercise a lot of patience. And so in product development and what we do at Finis, it's only because, they talk about you have to do something for 10,000 hours to get good. And 10,000 hours in some people's life means it's about 5 years. And Paula and I have been doing this now for 27 years. So I think we have our 50,000 hours. And
yeah.
And it's really refreshing. I think like there are so many people that are so good to us. Yourself being one of them, right? It's passionate people about swimming. We exchange ideas, and we're still learning ourselves. We learn all the time. So I think that's the relationships. We do speak about relationships, and I'd have to say one of the ones I feel like so strong about, and I'd say maybe it's been 15 or 20 years, but it's Glenn Mills at Go Swim. I think Glenn, he's incredibly kind and incredibly knowledgeable. I think he's almost like a doctor. When you talk to him, he's going to be accepting it, and he takes things back to the very, very first fundamentals. So you can't just get to the problem. You almost have to find the fundamentals first. So I'm a huge fan of what Go Swim does and the way he educates.
Yeah, he's very passionate about the sport. I mean, you can see that, from the videos or what he posts, he's still, even, how long has it been? A long period of time that you still, you're still driven to make, content, as it were. New things come about. How do I explain it to swimmers? Because each swimmer actually will have different approaches in many ways. It's sometimes they will ask you a question that you may not have thought of, even though, especially if you're an instinctive swimmer before. And a lot of times they'll ask you something and you're like, yeah, how do I explain that? And how it's the same, like, how the snorkel and so on came about is someone asked you, like, how? And yeah, so we watch his videos quite a lot.
I know one of the tools that it's different than the way we used to watch coaching is, I think people used to show up on deck and the coach would say to the swimmers, this is the drill we're going to work on. This is why we're going to work on the drill. And then do we have questions? And then we'll go to the pool and do it. And what I think Glenn has flipped that classroom around a little bit, where he is he gives the coaches tools that they can provide the information to the swimmers before they get to the pool. And so the coach can send a short little video that says, here's how, we're going to do this. And when the kids come to the pool deck, someone might, like myself, I might have watched it 4 or 5 times because I wanted to make sure I understood it. Someone else might have understood it the first time. And maybe some didn't watch it. But it means that when they show up on the deck, the question from the coach is rather, did you all watch it? What questions do you have about it? Because I think it takes a different amount of time to process what those questions might be. And I think that's a real, that's growth in the coaching for this sport of swimming.
I think I'm just going to ask because we have giveaways to do. We mustn't forget those because everyone likes giveaways. So I have one question. So one of our questions is, name one of the Team Finis athletes who competed in the ISL in Budapest. That is our giveaway question. If you can give your answer in the comments, and we'll announce that later in the show. Okay, so we have a comment that from someone from the Philippines. Finnish fan here from the Philippines. Agility, paddles and freestyle snorkels for my students.
That's awesome.
And so, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Hi, Coach Ramos. Thank you for tuning in as well. So we have international audience as well, if you like.
I might recommend something for this coach. I'm fortunate again that coaches will call me and they tell me how they use the products. So for those of you who have the agility paddle, it's nice to break up the swimming with the group without having straps. They can be taken off quickly and put on the deck. They can be put on quickly because there's no straps. So I do have coaches and teams that say, we're going to do this drill. And for example, they might say a 10 50s. And on the odd 50s, so 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, we get to wear the paddles. And on the evens, we don't wear the paddles. And what the coaches are trying to encourage them is the paddle is intended not to be too much bigger than your hand. So what we're really doing is we understand that as we put positive pressure on the palm of the hand, that paddle stays on. And so you think that by wearing the paddle, I'm getting more distance per stroke. But if you have to wear the paddles on the odds, take it off for the evens. Can I swim with that same tempo, with that same stroke count? And I think it's fun for anyone who's swimming to be able to I think number 2 and number 4 is actually quite hard. They probably can't keep it up. But because now they're thinking, and the swimmers, they get that intuitiveness, that by the time they do 6, 8, and 10, I think they do get it. So it's just a matter of teaching that fundamental skill. It's a fun way to use the product.
I mean, one of my favorite drills to do with the pedals is actually we alternate one side with, one side without. And then we'll swap it as we go along. And when we first started doing that, a lot of them were like, you're always so used to having the 2, you're always doing that. And I was saying to them, you will feel the difference, which is your weaker side, actually, when you have one with and one without. And they realized this, because obviously you would do quite a lot in order to feel it, not always in the first one. And they were like, oh.
And you can do it with a fin as well. I know many products say, okay, you got a fin on the left foot, and then next time we got a fin on the right foot. A fin on the right foot and a paddle on the left hand or right hand, and it's
opposite side.
It's all about like brain training. Like, how do I compensate to swim better?
And you really do feel, you don't realize that you have an area that you're not as strong in, or you would pick up a weakness when you're doing something like that, because you don't always, because you're so used to just, you're going, you don't see it. And then when you try it, you're like, oh, it's like, that's what you want. You want thinking swimmers, or to be able to think and understand how your body works and why is it doing what it's doing, in order to, progress further, I guess. If as a coach also, you would want to see that. We have another question from another coach from the Philippines. Hi, Moy. Thank you for tuning in. One of I know it's a long question. What is the primary advantage in comparison to other brands, the Swim Coach Communicator? And what are the current improvements that you'll be doing with the product?
So the Swim Coach Communicator, there are certain rules about products that you're going to develop, and because it uses Bluetooth as its communication point, you're technically not supposed to be able to communicate with multiple people. So the Swim Coach Communicator is really intended to be a one-on-one type of a teaching device. So I think the nicest thing about this product is when a coach watches somebody swim again and again and again, and they recognize something that they're trying to point out to that swimmer, but you can't talk to them in real time. So you have to wait till they get to the wall in between their sets, and we can come back to them and say, you tend to do this every time in the middle of the pool. This is what I'm noticing with your swim. But then the swimmer's trying to think back and going, do I remember it? Do I remember it? So I think that the nice part about the Swim Coach Communicator is it's something that a coach should have one available, and it connects with their smartphone. And it's intended for that moment when you look and you see, that's the point that I'm trying to instill with my swimmer. So you say, hey, let's put this on, and now I'm going to actually talk to you, and we're going to make that subtle improvement, right? Because with other land sports, certainly a coach can shout out to the person playing the sport and say, rotate your hips, or, improve your body alignment, or whatever it might be. But we don't have that luxury in the pool. So I think it's really intended as a one-on-one communication point. And I think it's a great tool.
They mentioned whether there will be an evolution of of that particular. Yeah. Yeah. Cake is very important. Yes.
I think so. The latest innovation that one of the products we've been working on, we're actually going on 2 years, but we're in this final beta testing right now, and it's our smart goggle. So, like, to be able to communicate with the swimmer. So, I would say there's some points of communication now that we're able to give the swimmer in the corner of their eye. So while they're swimming, they can look in the corner of their eye and they can get some data points. I think this is just the start of where we'll be able to take this product. Today, we can have a running clock and we can flash your splits and I can give you your stroke rate. So when I think about the swim coach communicator, I think the next level of the product like this is once we're able to give the information to the swimmer, at what point we'll be able to broadcast that information to the coach as well. And at what point will a coach be able to, send information back to the swimmer in the corner of their eye. So I think this is the start of what will become a communication device for swimming.
When would the smart goggle be expected to be out?
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're doing I know someone working on that too. So we're going to bring the first units out to market in probably the middle or late January. We're going to do about 1,000 units just in the United States and make sure that we're really close to, we want to gather all the user experience feedback. We want to analyze when you're done with each swim, it automatically will post to your app in your phone. But then we also get to see that data in the app. And what we want is, what's really unique to the product too is we can, it doesn't even have, we recognize all 4 strokes, but we also recognize kicking sets and drills. So we recognize so much. And what'll be for those first 1,000 units, we want to know when people contact us and say, wow, everything's working perfectly. Or they contact us and said, I did a drill and it didn't recognize it exactly right. So this is what we want to know. So I think our approach to the global market will be probably March is when we'll more broadly make the product available.
I'm looking forward to that one. I think it'll be an interesting, I'm not sure, the first time it's interesting to see data while you're swimming. Yeah, it would be that would be a learning curve, I think.
So there's another product. There's a product out today where the data is really it's all in front of your face, and we made the decision just to put it in the peripheral vision of one eye, because I think there comes a point where actually you're in the pool to enjoy your swim, and we don't need to be overloaded with data. But to have the data when you want to take that glance, it's always there for you. So I think it's a much different approach. I personally find it quite motivating because with each turn, I'm learning, am I staying on pace or not? So it's essentially, it's a pace clock running in the corner of your eye.
So you mentioned there'll be an app on the phone to accompany the smart goggles.
Yeah.
As well. That's different to the Lane Vision.
Yeah. Yes.
App that you okay. For those who may not know, maybe you could tell us a little bit about the Lane Vision app. That's
sure. I think so. A little bit of history about Lane Vision. Because we're located here in California, what's the area called Silicon Valley. So there's a lot of big technology companies in Silicon Valley. And one of the local swim clubs, the great swimmer Natalie Coughlin, is the owner of a nice club very nearby. So one of the swimmers who was swimming for Natalie, the parent was up in the bleachers watching the practice, and he saw the coaches writing down a lot of information on their notepads. And the father said to one of the coaches, says, "What are you writing down?" And the coach said, "Oh, I'm writing down the splits on every turn. I'm writing down the strokes that they take. I'm writing down the stroke rate that they're swimming at. I'm writing down how long are they traveling with each turn." And the parent said, "But, how do you then give the information to the swimmer?" And the coach says, "Well, we hope to be able to give the information to the swimmer. It's like we know it, and then we want to try and provide the information." And the parents, what he's doing is he was currently working on software for autonomous vehicle driving. So for the cars that are going to drive without a driver. And he said that all of this technology is already available in the smartphone. So your smartphone, the camera in your smartphone already has a depth sensor in it. So the depth sensor can actually measure time, speed, velocity. So he said to Natalie, he says, "Hey, Natalie, if he's already writing software to prevent people from crashing in cars without a driver, going around turns and buildings with other things, far more disorderly than people swimming up one side of the pool and swimming back the other side," right? It was a real simple process. So he suggested it to Natalie. Natalie said, "Let's call John and go visit me." And so Natalie and the gentleman's name is Kanan. And so they came into my office and we had a conversation and we said, we'd like to develop it together. So today it's it costs $3 a month. It's something that we were really convinced that, not again, like Glenn Mills and the learning experience, coach and swimmer, both should have it, because what it is, it's a chance for, if the swimmer gets the, like, call it a test set, like there's no reason not to have the swimmers do one test set every week and have somebody film them. But when you film it in the AR mode, it automatically detects each stroke. So it sees each stroke coming around. And when you're done, it tells me how many strokes did I take, what was my stroke rate, what was my distance per stroke, what were my underwaters like, my velocity. And when the swimmer has the information, and then the swimmer can share that with the coach and say, I'm looking at my test swim from this week and this week and this week and from last month and the other month. They can then compare that information about what areas are we making improvements and what areas are we not. A parent could actually film them at a swim meet and say, okay, I filmed them at the swim meet, and look at the same data and say, let's look at what we got on the swim meet compared to what you've been doing in practice. Where do we have to make improvements? So I think it's almost as though it's an opportunity for the swimmers to have a journal for a particular swim in their phone each week. It's something to get smarter with.
I think it's good also during this present time where they may not necessarily are able to be with their swimmers, obviously with the pandemic and all this. And if swimmers have access to their own pool, they can still see their swimmers swimming or give them, all right, let's work on this, and different aspects as well, using technology. We have a friend who tends to forget which lane she swims in. So yeah, we need a bit of that. Okay, we have a question from Brennan, I believe. Somewhere there. Okay. will the smart goggle have the ability to beep like the tempo trainer?
Yeah, and initially we're doing two different
Option.
API interfaces with. So we are working with Glenn Mills at Go Swim. We're also working with Paul and Adam at Swim Smooth. So initially we won't provide the beep. So, but it doesn't mean that we can't do it through a light or other things. There comes a point too where like too much sensory is too much. So I would say with like the Swim Smooth guys, everything is based on stroke rate. And so they use the tempo trainer quite extensively. What we're doing with them is we're going to be able to feed them all the data from the goggle as well. And they'll be able to validate if people are actually swimming at the tempo that they're asking them to. You know, for example, right, if you gave me the tempo trainer and said, we're going to put it at 1.5 seconds per beep, and I'm going to go swim a 400 meters, and you're asking me to make sure I keep that cadence for all 400 meters. When I'm done, I have the opportunity to say, yeah, I think I did, but did I? So I think the smart goggle will have an opportunity to kind of validate some information initially. So no beep out the gates, but it's something that's certainly on our roadmap.
We'll put up some links well, there's some in the chat from Finis Swimming Malaysia about the smart goggle as well as the lane vision.
Great.
Finis Malaysia is organizing a free lane vision virtual workshop sometime soon. So if you follow Finis Swimming Malaysia's Facebook page, they will keep us informed. And if any of the coaches or swimmers or parents that are watching are interested, they can head out there and check it out. Hopefully soon. I think we have another question from Linny as well.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. We in fact will be able to put a compass heading in it. So initially, a compass heading. So when we first introduce the product, it'll have a couple of open water features, and I can't really share them because there's some things that we're working on that we can't share yet. But putting in a light to say, am I on pace, off course, or on course, is on the product roadmap as well.
That's awesome. But yeah, swimming open water straight-ish is always a challenge for us.
Everyone.
Yeah.
For everyone.
Part of the fun. As well. Moy had a little comment. Oh, he had to. Great product to look forward to. Thank you, John, for the updates. Good. Thank you for tuning in, Moy. So we'll do one more question, I think, as a giveaway if we have time. I know it's very late for the two of you. We should make you do some, workout to keep you going. One of the questions is more to do with me. What Round Island swim did I do, and the distance that I completed last year? That is the question that we have one of the giveaways. Some of the things that are part of our giveaways is a stability snorkel. We have a Finis beanie, which I am coveting because I looked at it. I was like, oh, it's so cool, but it's very hot here, and we don't tend to wear beanies, but it's cool. And some Fifth Stroke keychains, and a Finis water bottle, and that's the beanie, and a mesh bag as well. These are some of the things that are available as our giveaway. So you guys do answer your questions And yeah, and get to posting your photos and tagging us as well, seeing what, creative ways folks can use Finis equipment. So, I mean, the bottle is cool. I love the bottle. I have two, actually. And I mean, obviously with the pandemic, everyone has had to take stock or reevaluate, how we do things. What are some of the hardest obstacles that you faced with this year? And, how has it been to overcome it? I mean, with the pandemic, things have changed in approaches.
Yeah. I think it's a tremendous opportunity for everyone to learn about patience. In California, when there is a pool that you're able to use, it's one person per lane, one coach on deck. So there's not a lot of swimming. I mean, all over the world, the number of swimmers getting swim time is drastically reduced. So we're a company that, for our survival, we need people to swim. When people swim, then people find themselves wanting different products. And so it's, we just had to adjust ourselves in the advertising. There's a lot of adjustments, but I think it's been a real lesson in patience, because this time will pass. And if you're someone who loves swimming, you can swim your whole life. So we will get back to the water, but right now there's limited access to water. So I think, the swimmers who are yearning for it, the coaches that are yearning for it, and as a business, we're yearning for it, but we know it's going to take some time. We expect the next several months will be much like the past several months. We're hopeful that come spring, there'll be some vaccines in place, and there'll be some better testing. So that's what we're hopeful for.
I mean, yeah, it is a struggle. I mean, if swimming, or whatever level you are, is very much a part of your life, it's been like a roller coaster of one section of completely nothing, and then you're back again for a short period of time, and then it's I guess no one can plan how things really are going to be exactly. I mean, not everyone can plan exactly, but it's been a complete change. But do you see, I mean, this is like a big question, do you see the sport evolving with this pandemic in mind? Yes, it is tough to go on me. Do you see the sport evolving in the way it's run, or how people will approach it with this pandemic situation in mind?
We are seeing more participation in the United States, which would be virtual racing. So it's for those that swim, I don't think the change, like if we really love swimming, then we just have to wait till we can get back to the water. So I don't think, like, swimming for health and wellness, I don't see the change taking place. In fact, they're the ones that are going to go find the water now. I think in the sport of racing, it's very common now. They say, my swim club is going to swim against this club, and we're going to do it at 12 noon. And at 12 noon, we'll put a space between, we're not going to be racing in every lane. That way, there's going to be good water for everybody. and they're still doing the racing. And then at the end, you know, when that race is supposed to be over, the teams, they share the information. And then at 12:15 is the next swim, and at 12:25 is the next swim. And I think that's perfectly healthy. It means that you're swimming for your own personal best. You can still race them. It's not as, you know, challenging to have someone right next to you, but I think it's a good thing. So I think that is a state of evolution. I think with less time in the water, so there was an old theory that said in order to be your best, we have to, you know, is it training 5,000 or 6,000 or 8,000 yards in a day or 20,000 yards in a day? That's good for your conditioning, but today we don't have that luxury. So I think it's an opportunity for people to focus on technique and other things that can make them a better swimmer, because we're not going to have time to get in all the yards. I think that's okay.
That's an interesting idea, having the virtual races.
Yeah.
Technology will, yeah, I mean, at least, you know, now that you said with the evolution of how things are, and I guess survival is probably a really big word to use, but this is how the sport will survive.
Yeah.
You know, people driving, okay, let's try this, you know, why not? That you're saying, you know, virtual races, and this club will swim with this club if they can, or if they can do open water for a period, or lake swimming, you know, they can do that. Though I know it's kind of cold over there right now. But you know, there are options there if you choose to, rather than sit back and, you know, flail your hands and go, oh, right. How do you drive it forward, and how can you be there for your swimmers or to keep things going as well? Beverly has a question. Would it be possible to create a drag dress and drag pants for a future in for more resistance training? Interesting.
Yeah, it's a conversation that we've had in the company a number of times, right? So in some religions, people need to cover their whole body. You know, I think it's a woman swam, maybe it's 26 miles in the Black Sea wearing a full, you know, the
whole suit. Yep.
You know, completely covered. And so I think that it is relevant. You know, it really is something that, you know, men and women, you know, the fact that some religions don't allow the women to have their body exposed, then it really is a necessary product. So it's not the first time I've had the conversation. It's something that we've talked about a few times. We haven't made one yet. So I keep the idea.
And interesting, because we've used the drag pants obviously as part of training. The ones with the pockets, pockets one. That was entertaining to do. And one of the days, because we knew we didn't have much time left to swim, so we said, okay, we'll do what we called a merciless Sunday. So we had 3 hours, and we just, you know, so we because back in our day, we won't say how many years that was, we didn't have the drag suits and anything else, so we used clothes. And we have canvas shoes as well. We didn't have the shoes in December. So I said to the kids, you know, this is what we, you know, like parents would say, you know, when I was young, we did this. And so I said to the kids, and we're going to experience what it's like, our version of drag suits, as it were. So they did, and they they said they'd much rather wear the drag suit with the pockets than the clothes and all that. But, you know, it was a fun thing to experiment with and to show them. that this is what people had to do to train, to do what they want. So they appreciate the equipment so much more than, doing it the old school way. Maybe we'll take, that's the family.
Bam.
You have 2 kids?
Yes. Yeah, so that's our,
Son, Adam.
the one closest in the screen is Adam, and he works with us now. So
Okay.
he graduated from the University of Hawaii, studying international business marketing. And I think, he went through that classic, he had 3 months left of college, and college became remote. So there was no going to classes at the end. And his college ceremony did not take place. And I think some of the other opportunities he was pursuing. But it's been really nice to have. We said, look, come live at home again, work with us, because this is, a true period of test. And he's learning a lot, and he's doing a great job with us. So enjoy having Adam work with us. And our younger son, Cohen, is in his final year of school in Arizona.
Must have been quite, the whole college experience is being immersed in, the whole environment and culture. And for a better part of a year, you've had to be remote or more isolated. I think that would have been new challenges to face, I guess.
Definitely.
We have a comment from Swim Shop to you that I will post. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in, guys, as well. I will take 1 or 2 more questions. I realized that, we don't want to keep you up too late. Brennan's question. Are we approaching a plateau in equipment design, or will there be another revolution in sport like the Superset era?
No, I think we should never stop innovating. As a company, there are a couple products that we've been, I'll explain it like this. There's a couple products we're designing now that we will introduce during 2021. But I like to think, like setting the standard for the development team is, I don't know, in here we use Fahrenheit. And so 211 degree water is really, really hot water. That's it. But at 212 degrees, the water boils. And when water boils, a lot of magical things can happen. So I push my product development team much the same. It says when we're designing something, keep working on it to find that extra little bit. If you can make that product actually go from being really good to actually boil, the magic happens. Then what happens is people talk about it, and if people fall in love with that product or they talk about it, then we've done our job right. If we don't get it to that level, so I think that's pretty well instilled in a lot of what we do as a company. My wife pushes me for better all the time. And we work with our staff and we say, really, let's be the best we can be, because that's what gets noticed. I think innovation will continue. And I think, and when it comes to innovation in the sport, what we'll find is, years ago, we used to watch people just do 3 dolphin kicks off their turns. Today we're watching the swimmers, the best swimmers in the world. They have long underwaters, right? They really they learn that skill. And the monofin is a great tool. We have one called the foil monofin, and it's one that any age, there could be a a younger swimmer, it can be an adult swimmer. You find something new with that motion. If you don't do the motion right with a foil on, you know right away. If you're not, pressing down at the chest and rolling it through your hips, right? That type of motion becomes fluid with this type of a product. When you don't have that on, with regular fins, if one leg kicks harder than the other, I'll never know. With a foil, one leg kicks harder, I tilt to a side. So I think, and the faster you go, the more you feel resistance on your body. So I think what we'll discover in the next iteration of how people are getting better, I think we're going to continue to see improvement of that underwater, on the starts and on the turns. I think that's where we're going to become faster swimmers, if that's what people are desiring. I think there's still more to come, where we're not there yet.
I mean, that's part of the exciting things is, it's going to be continually evolving with different circumstances. And, sometimes, that you were saying is part of your product development is you get the feedback from different people, and sometimes a whole new perspective comes into, place. And then you're like, oh, okay, that's the direction that, that's why communication is really important as well. Before we wind down, John and Paula will choose their favorite 2 questions a little later, which will end as part of our giveaway. And we will make the announcement unless you 2 have, or maybe a bit later. Do you have? I put you on the spot right now. It's like, have you got a question? No. Well, John and Paula can pick their 2 questions or favorite comments, and then we'll announce who the winners are the giveaway from today as well, a little later on. Thank you very much, John and Paula, for taking time from your Thanksgiving weekend to come and talk to.
I think I'll just share the comment what the coach made with the freestyle snorkel and the agility paddles. And the reason why I like that, so a coach said, hey, I really like using these. And I took a moment to say, well, here's a drill I like with the agility paddles. The something else with the freestyle snorkel is the freestyle snorkel has a different shape, and it allows the person to actually get a little bit of a lower head position. So I think, I'm when I have the chance to talk to coaches and swimmers about what they're doing and why they're doing it, I find that really engaging. And so that's that's fun stuff to talk about.
Coach Ramos, I think is the one. Yep. But we will announce all the giveaway winners except the photo contest a little later on, so we don't put Paula on pressure. Like, okay, it's your turn now. Name your favorite. No pressure. Yes, thank you very much for taking time out from your Thanksgiving weekend and to staying up very late to talk to us all. And
thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Oh, it's been amazing. Thank you.
Thanks.
Before we end, thank you very much to my sponsors, Finis Swimming Malaysia, Swim Shop to You, Real Out Play, PTT Outdoor, and there's always discount codes because we like discounts and things. Swim Shop to You, 10% off. The discount code is Dugongs. And for PTT Outdoor, 10% off Finis and Sankban products, and the discount code is CBL Sports. And this is it for 2020. I will take a break to come back, hopefully stronger in January. And thank you, everyone, for all your support and for tuning in. And that's us done. Take care, everyone, and stay safe. Bye.
Happy holidays.